Stuart Carroll here, back with another video in our video editing series. This time we are talking about Filmora 9. If you haven't already seen it, we taught you everything you need to know about Filmora 9 in 20 minutes in a previous video, so do check that out. The tone of this video, however, is more of a review of Filmora 9. Is it good value for money? Is it the best video editing software for beginners? Or should you upgrade to something maybe more expensive or better qualified for your needs? So we're going to look at what it has, what it doesn't have, and then you'll be better placed to know whether you should invest your hard-earned cash into Wondershare's Filmora 9. To jump to the conclusion on Filmora 9, I've been very impressed with the depth of functionality in that piece of software. Wondershare themselves target Filmora 9 at the entry-level video editor market, and yes, it's perfect in that respect. It's easy to use, it's nice to look at on the screen so it's not intimidating, but there's tremendous depth in there if you want to get into it, and I'll show you some of that in a little bit. First things first, I'd recommend you download a copy of our video editing software guide. With the software comparison tables, you can look and see the various functions that the software has. You can also learn about the various things that video editing software can do, so you can decide whether or not all that functionality matters for your needs. So for example, motion tracking. This is done with a plugin inside Final Cut Pro 10. It allows us to track the car going past, and we can add some text, and it's all a lot of fun. Multicamming is important if you're shooting weddings, events, conferences, music videos. You want to be able to stack various clips in an efficient way automatically and cut between them. You don't have that in Filmora 9. We of course have to be mindful of what the software costs, but if you look at this, we've slowed down this clip to 10% speed and it's jumpy, there's missed frames. But in Final Cut we have something called optical flow, where it adds in missing frames automatically, and you can see this glossy slow motion which sometimes does a really good job. Filmora 9 also doesn't have support for 360 video footage, so if you see that in your future, then it's something to keep in mind. Now, as I say, these are not omissions, it's not that they should be there, but you just need to keep in mind if you want them, you might need to look elsewhere. The one thing I would say that I do miss with Filmora 9, and is perhaps fair criticism, is the organisation of media. So if you're bringing in a lot of clips, a lot of photos, a lot of sound effects, a lot of music, there's no particularly structured way of editing those clips into various bins or various keyworded collections. So I think Filmora 9 is perfect for the beginner who's going to be doing single projects, a YouTube video for example, a vlog, a holiday video, Instagram content, any kind of content, especially social media content. Filmora 9 is perfect. If you're going to get into bigger, more complex projects, I think you might want to look elsewhere. So let's get into the positives now, and I'll give you a whole bunch of reasons why I'm super impressed with Filmora 9. Filmora 9 has an extremely user-friendly interface. It's a nice piece of software to use. If you're coming at video editing for the first time, it's a scary proposition. You just see all these various windows and you don't really know what to do. Now, of course, there's a learning curve, and we can teach you everything you need to know about Filmora 9 in 20 minutes. Do check out that video, but this is a great place to be if you are a beginner, unlike some of the other platforms which can be a little bit intimidating. Filmora 9 is very fast. Now this of course depends on your computing power, but by and large we found it to be a very smooth, very easy piece of software to use. I can't really recall seeing that spinning rainbow coloured wheel of death on our mid-2015 MacBook Pros here. Now that's something you see quite a bit with the other software, and it's just a moment when your heart sinks. This plays back the 4K footage perfectly, and we've had no problems. And as I say, this is a 2015 MacBook Pro coming in at almost 5 years old. This is not cutting edge computing power. Filmora 9 supports the extremely useful function of proxy editing. Let's say you're bringing in 4K H.265 footage off a GoPro or a DJI drone. That's pretty hard going for any computer. 4K footage, new codec H.265. It can be a grind. So what the computer does manually or automatically, depending on how you have your preferences set, is creates a lower resolution copy of that original media with which you then edit. Come the time of export, those get pushed aside, the original files get pulled in, and the highest quality output is given to you. really advanced color grading and color correction tools sit within Filmora 9. At the most basic level, you can adjust your contrast and your saturation and your white balance, but if you want to get into it, you can click on that advanced tab and you can really mess about. You have a histogram there so you can see exactly what you're doing with your colors. You even have HSL sliders in there, hue, saturation and luminance. This is something that was only just added to Final Cut Pro. You can tap into every single color there and adjust its tone, its hue if you like, saturation, so the intensity and vibrance of that color, and its brightness, the luminance. You can create some really dramatic looks in this software if you like as an advanced user. You can also save those presets, so once you hit on something that you like, you can save a preset for future use. Sticking with advanced color correction and color grading, Filmora 9 comes with some really nice LUTs pre-packaged lookup tables, those presets that you can stick on your footage to make it look all jazzy. Now sometimes they can be a bit overbaked when you put lookup tables on your footage, but by and large the ones we have here in Filmora 9 are very, very good. You can also dial in the strength so they don't have to be zing if you don't want them to be. Now again, this is something Final Cut Pro only added a year or two ago to its software. Even better than that, we have support for third-party LUTs. So if you buy LUTs from your favourite YouTuber or you create your own LUTs, you can bring them in to Filmora 9. It's seriously impressive stuff. When we create our YouTube content and edit it in Final Cut Pro, we tend to use a yellow font. It has a black outline, a little drop shadow. It's a certain type of font. Every single time I have to manually create that title when I bring it into Final Cut Pro. I tell you what would be a lot better would just be to save a preset that you can use every single time for consistency across your content. Can't do that on $300 Final Cut Pro. You can do it on Filmora 9. Little efficiency savings like that make all the difference in the world when it comes to video editing. Yes, they can stack themselves full of titles and transitions and all kinds of color presets and all this kind of stuff. But for me, as a more advanced user of video editing software, things like that matter. Being able to save title presets doesn't sound like much, but it matters to me. Now, out with that, we have tremendous variety and customizability of our titles within Filmora 9, both in terms of the fonts, the colors, the animation of those fonts. There's tons of presets in there to play with, so it's a real strength of Filmora 9. I love Filmora 9's built-in split-screen presets. You'll forgive me for banging on about Final Cut Pro 10, but it is one of the industry standards in this field, and it doesn't have split-screen presets. You can pay $50 for a plugin that gives you split-screen presets, but we don't have them built in. We do with Filmora 9, and they are really, really good, as you can see in some of these examples. Easy to use, intuitive, good fun, and genuinely effective when you're presenting your content to an audience. Filmora 9 has a Chroma Key or green screen function, so if you are doing content that involves a green screen, you can remove that green background with one click basically in Filmora 9. The settings are there, it's a little bit customizable, but by and large you will get a great result. We did a really good fun video showing you how you can get a fantastic green screen studio in your house using just a green piece of fabric and window light, so do check out the link to that. Filmora 9 has some really good elements, they're called. These are animations that you can incorporate in your video footage. Now that ranges from emojis that pop up on your screen to the rather more useful arrows, for example, and speech bubbles. Now again, all the time on our YouTube content, we put a little arrow overlay to point to various things on the screen. I need to bring in a separate PNG arrow, then I adjust the size of it, rotate it, all that kind of stuff. It's a bit footery, there's nothing built into Final Cut for that purpose. Here in Filmora 9, I have animated arrows that I can bring into the footage, place as I like, and I'm good to go. They're absolutely brilliant. Filmora 9 comes packaged with bucket loads of contemporary transitions. Now, as always, you need to be a little bit careful with your transitions. A bad transition can ruin perfectly good footage. They can look naff and tacky, and some of them do fall into that category, I'm not going to lie, but some of them are very good. The more kind of trendy warp zoom transitions that you see a lot on YouTube, they're there as standard in Filmora 9. Again, that's probably going to be a paid for plugin in something like Final Cut Pro 10. In the interests of not making this video too long, let's wrap up. As you can tell, I'm quite a fan of Filmora 9. As someone who's spent far too long over the last 10 years sat in front of a computer editing wedding videos, music videos, corporate videos, YouTube videos, for that matter, anything that makes the editing process fun is a good thing, and Filmora 9 put the fun back into editing for me, particularly those split screen presets. I love them. Some of the elements, the speech bubbles that you saw earlier, the arrows, great fun, very, very useful as well. So, big fan. As always, please leave your comments below. If you're interested, there's also a discount code, or a link I should say, for Epidemic Sound. It incorporates a month's free if you're interested in the best place to get royalty-free music and sound effects, blah, blah, blah. Get yourself a copy of that purchasing guide to help you navigate this process. Stay tuned for further content, and we will see you next time.